or show you guys a little bit of how I plan. So this is how I plan my Eureka. So I always like to begin with the end in mind. And so when delivering a message, that's extremely important. So this up here says 9/14/20. That's the actual day that I'm going to teach this lesson. That's Monday. And so this is lesson 5 that we are on, as you can tell there. This right here is called a standard 308.2, and that stands for 3rd grade operations and algebraic thinking. And this is probably the second part of this overall standard. And I don't start doing this type of stuff until I realize what the students actually have to do or have to know by the end of the lesson to master this standard. And when I say standard, I'm saying a standard is like a power or a mode of knowing, or a power or a mode of thinking. And so every standard that a student has to know is basically, they build off of each other all the way until they get to high school. So a lot of the problems that may occur in a certain child, I like to know that they've mastered it before I move on to the next standard, or to the next topic, or to the next part of learning how to multiply, or the next part of learning how to divide. So how I do that and be able to kind of catch those misconceptions and like allow the students to build up their courage and build up their knowledge of something. Each lesson has something called an exit ticket. And so I look at this exit ticket first. And typically the students do the exit ticket at the very end of the lesson, after you've reviewed, after they've had independent practice, after they've practiced again, after you've checked their work. This is the last straw, and it shows me or tells me how I've done for the day. So I look here first. I work everything out as if I was a child, so I can know every step that they need to know to be able to be successful. Then I take this information and I also go and I work out something called their problem set. This is considered their independent work after I've taught the lesson. Okay, this is the questions and stuff that they get after after I brought forth the lesson and I've delivered it to the best of my ability. This is them able to practice and implement everything that I've taught them in the last hour. So I also go and I work these problems out. I work them out as if I'm a child. You know, I feel like the best way to be able to meet the needs of your students is to actually do the work as if you were a student. And so that's what I do. And every time that I do it, I come up with so many different things that I can add to my actual delivery method of my lesson that would make me be able to enhance my lesson for my students. And so in working out this, just before even looking at the lesson, I've already realized like students need to know the difference between groups and amount in each group. So just emphasizing that, even though I know that they need to know that anyway, throwing emphasis on this during my lesson is going to be important, because nowhere in the lesson does it, because nowhere in the lesson does it tell me to do this. So I'm doing this anyway because that's important. Autumn, please stop making that noise. Autumn, stop making that noise. Okay. And so here you see something called a must do, a could do, and an extension. All of my must do's are the numbers that I want them to actually complete, because these are the direct practices for them to be able to master the objective for the day. And the objective for this lesson is students need to understand the meaning of the unknown as the number of groups in division, right? That sounds like foreign language to a lot of you guys, I know, but it's really not that complicated once you sit down and, do the work. So I base these problems, these question numbers, off of the fact that I first worked out the exit ticket, second worked out the problem set, and had my little general notes here. And yeah, that's how I get those questions. And then you have, it's backwards. So basically I started at the end and I'm taking myself now through the lesson. So in starting at the end, I'm able to go in, because this is called scripted curriculum. And with scripted curriculum, you know, the editors and the people who created this type of stuff, they're talking to maybe some higher up on the food chain kids up in California or up in upstate New York or Connecticut, Denver, places like that, where the students, like, typically you deliver the message to them once or twice and they know exactly what to do. So that's the good part about scripted curriculum, is they have the teacher deliveries and they have student responses, but each time these students get their answer correct in my curriculum. So what's important for me is to have to go through this and tailor it to myself and to my group of students that I have for the year. And I've already gotten to know my students, and they're very bright, they're very, very smart, and they've had this curriculum since they were in kindergarten. And what's important about this curriculum is that it builds off of it each year, each grade level. So they're at a particular point in their life as 9-year-olds to where this is not foreign language to them. And I'm very excited about that. But that doesn't mean that I don't have to tweak it and make it my own, especially to be able to give it to the students in the best way possible. So that's what I'm doing now. And that's why you see these markings and these highlights and extra words on the side and things to implement. So that's what this is. This is basically a how to edit, how to redo, redraw, how to word, how to make a lesson your own type of video is turning into. So this is important. The concept development is actually the piece of the lesson that you deliver to the kids so that they can be able to do that independent practice that I showed you guys. So this is how they get the lesson. And so just starting out, this is a different type of lesson because each lesson is like a problem type. So it says problem 1, division as fair share. I've highlighted fair share because I feel like students actually need to know what I mean by that. So I'm going to further explain what a fair share is. And it says division as fair share with the unknown as the number of groups. And so it gives you this word problem. And then as the teacher and student, we're going to break it down together. And see how they have these talking points and stuff? I'll highlight and then I'll say over here, make sure to ask this question in general. Because sometimes you'll see the questions that you actually don't need to ask. So I make sure you say this. And how I introduce this lesson is, I put on the side, okay, class, today's lesson is in the form of questions. We're going to be going through and we're going to be answering questions together. All right, we're going to work together as a team. Here it says, let's use counters to show the problem. I said, pull out the counters. I have to know that I need to have my handy dandy counters ready. So it's like, see, it's just like manually going in and inserting myself into this lesson so that I don't come up on Monday and not be prepared. Like, my biggest fear is not being prepared and not being able to teach my students to the best of my ability. So I do take my job seriously, as you can tell. And here I said, discuss how questions try to trick you, meaning actual numbers and spelled out numbers. They're going to come to a lot of problems, a lot of word problems where they get confused because they see physical numbers, and then they'll also end up seeing a number spelled out where it says Cynthia plans to buy 15 burgers. 3 burgers come. You don't know how confused children get when they see stuff like that, because sometimes they feel like, oh, well, because this number is actually not in numerical form, it's in word form, I don't need it. So I'm going to X that out. So just telling myself, it's extremely important that you talk about the differences in word problems so that kids know what to look for. And so, yeah, this is just how I go through and I plan. Just briefly. This is like a multiple means of perception, like for the students, or ways that I can implement my lesson better. Also, how I can, this is another little box for me for like, what do we call it? Additional scaffolding. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Eureka Math is pretty cool. If y'all want like a detailed one of these where like I have my camera up and I go through the whole thing, I'll definitely do that for you. Yeah, I can definitely do that for you. This is needed now more than ever, being able to go through and like deep dive in a lesson, because you're not able to reach the students physically and catch those problems when they happen. All right, so kids definitely need like you to go deeper on camera because they don't have you physically in the space with them to be able to help them immediately. So yeah, that's how I plan for a lesson. Briefly, that's briefly how I plan for a lesson, but it definitely takes longer than me explaining how I just explained. So yeah, anyways, I'm gonna come back on and talk to you guys later on, definitely about some things that occurred that made me a little sad today. So yeah, I'll see you guys in a little bit. Hey vlog. I haven't talked to you guys all day. I'm still at work. It is 4:30. Tonight is open house, so we're doing it virtually. I had a decent day. It wasn't the best day to start with. I'll tell you guys more about what happened last night and this morning when I get home, because I don't want to discuss it like here. You just never know who's like listening and stuff. But I'm so glad tomorrow is Friday. Like I'm not even joking. Like I haven't felt like I needed a break in a very long time. Like it's not even because I've been off work so long. I love my job. I love teaching, but it's just very difficult doing it like this. Like this is not, I'm just very uncomfortable. I don't know. Hopefully it passes. Like